This weird axe was picked up at an army or dump store and definitely doesn't look like your average hardware store axe. The middle of the handle is marked fiberglass, and there's a sticker on it that says Sun Valley, California 91352, probably noting where the handle was made. The handle itself is fiberglass with a rubber grip at the end, giving it a solid, rugged feel. What do you think this might have been used for? This is a style of aircraft survival axe. It was designed with a specially insulated handle to protect the user from electrical currents which could be present if the aircraft crashes near power lines or live systems. The blade is shaped for cutting through fuselage or wreckage, and there's often a pointed or pry end for breaching panels. Firefighters and rescue personnel sometimes use similar tools for the same safety reasons. It was found in an old workshop, wooden handle with a saw-toothed metal plate extending from it. No markings, nothing to identify it. The teeth aren't quite like a traditional saw. Any idea what this could have been used for? This is a German veneer saw. You use it to cut veneer strips to size. One side of the blade has teeth set for cutting across the grain, while the other is set for cutting along it. Some versions have an offset handle to let you work closer to flat surfaces, but all of them come with a wooden handle. It was found in a box of random junk in an old garage, metal body with a rubber-covered handle. The handle pivots, tightening a metal loop, almost like a clamp. Someone guessed it might be for opening jars, but that doesn't seem to be its original purpose. What do you think it was actually for? This is an oil filter wrench used for removing a car's oil filter. The design allows it to grip the filter tightly so it can be twisted off, especially when it's stuck from heat or buildup. Real good for getting it out of the Subaru Ring of Fire. It was found in a box of keepsakes, alongside items like a silver button hook and a nut pick, about 4 to 5 inches long with a worn wooden handle and a slim steel shaft. The tip is sharpened, though not razor sharp. It has the feel of something delicate but precise, maybe used to scrape or pick, possibly for cleaning something like a smoking pipe, or maybe even a personal grooming tool from an earlier time. Any idea what it might have been for? This is an old cuticle trimmer, likely dating back to the 18th or 19th century. Tools like this were often dual-purpose, used both for personal hygiene and minor medical procedures, especially in a time when surgical kits were compact and had to be versatile. The fine, curved blade and slender handle were designed for precision, allowing careful trimming of cuticles or the removal of small bits of tissue. In a medical setting, similar tools were used for lancing abscesses, cutting sutures, or performing delicate tasks on soft tissue. It was found in the glove compartment of a used car, homemade or at least heavily modified. It looks like someone took an 11mm wrench socket, soldered a metal handle to one end, and then added a metal skirt to the other. The socket is off-center under the skirt, and there is a rubber guard on the handle end. Any idea what someone might have needed this for? This is a homemade tool purpose-built to remove the locking nut from wire-style GM hubcaps, specifically designed for a 1992 Buick, though this design was common across many GM models from the late 1970s through the early 1990s. During that era, GM used wire wheel covers that were secured by a hidden threaded fastener behind a central emblem. These fasteners were notorious for getting stuck or stripped, often requiring specialized tools to remove without damaging the hubcap. Over time, many mechanics and DIYers resorted to crafting their own solutions. Like this one, the 11mm socket might seem out of place at first glance, but it's not being used for its hex shape. It was likely chosen simply because its diameter fits snugly over the locking nut. The offset placement of the socket in the tool's body was done deliberately, probably to reach the locking screw at just the right angle once the center emblem was popped off. It was found in rough shape, but it's clear it used to be something useful. perhaps even important. A tall, cylindrical leather container with a newer handle and a missing bottom. The kind of thing someone patched up to keep using long after it started to wear out. The middle section is divided off and there's a strap that likely went over the top. Not a holster, at least not a practical one, since a top strap would just get in the way. It shows some tooling, with a leaf-like pattern pressed into the leather, and signs that it was carried often. Some believe it could have been a quiver, others speculate it might have held a tool or possibly surveyor's equipment, but without the bottom or buckle, it's difficult to say for sure. What do you think this might have carried? This is an old clarinet case. Typically made of wood and covered in leather or a durable fabric, these cases were lined with felt or velvet to protect the delicate instrument from scratches and bumps. Inside, you'd find shaped compartments for the clarinet's individual pieces: the bell, lower and upper joints, barrel, and mouthpiece. Some also had a small compartment for reeds, cork grease, or a cleaning cloth. It was dug up at an old homestead from the late 1800s, a place littered with horseshoes, tack hardware, and tools from another time. It's got a narrow neck that might have once held a strap or been fixed onto something else, but it's the handle that's strange, flared and slightly bent, almost like the tip of an old spoon, but not quite. Could have been something to do with horses, maybe part of a harnessing system, or maybe it's a woodworking tool, especially since an old froe was found nearby. Ever seen a handle shaped like that before? What could this have been used for? This is a half-cheek snaffle, used in horseback riding, particularly with driving horses and some forms of English riding. The half-cheek snaffle bit has a single cheek piece extending downward from the mouthpiece. That straight bar helps keep the bit from sliding through the horse's mouth and provides a little lateral guidance, especially useful when working with young or green horses. The snaffle part means there's no leverage action, just direct pressure, which makes it milder compared to curb bits. Half-cheek snaffles are especially common in disciplines where clear, direct cues are important and where bit stability in the mouth matters. It was found on an old farm in a region where agriculture goes back generations. The tool has a wooden handle and a rope mechanism that pulls a clamp shut. There's no writing or markings. Some folks nearby guessed it might be an antique cattle weaning tool used to stop calves from nursing. Makes sense, especially considering how the clamp works in the rural setting. But there's no way to be sure without more. Any ideas what this tool was for? This is a set of nose pliers, a traditional livestock tool, likely used for handling or piercing a bull's nose. In earlier times, versions like this were used to temporarily control bulls by applying pressure inside the nostrils, either during veterinary work or while fitting a permanent nose ring. Some were also used as piercing tools, creating the hole for the ring itself. The older styles often had longer handles and sharper ends, while modern versions have shorter grips and rounded tips to minimize injury and stress on the animal. It was found in a barn among old farm equipment and tools. The blade is a heavy, arrow-shaped piece of iron, bolted securely to a curved metal handle. It's got some weight to it and looks like it was meant to dig, split, or pry something apart. What could this have been used for? This is a tine from a cultivator or similar piece of earth-turning equipment. Tines like this were typically mounted in rows on the underside of a cultivator frame and used to break up compacted soil, uproot weeds, or prepare seed beds. Depending on the era and setup, it could have been part of a tractor-drawn implement or used individually behind a small walk-behind plowing machine, even pulled by a horse or a low-powered donk, small engine around 3 horsepower. The curve and angle of the tine helped it bite into the soil with minimal resistance while still being sturdy enough to handle roots and rocks. It was found in a thrift store sitting among odds and ends with no label and no explanation. The object is made of brass, about 6 inches long, very lightweight, and has a hollow handle. On top are 2 round knobs or balls, and the front end features a dull, flat blade, not sharp enough to cut, but shaped like it had a purpose. There are no maker's marks, no writing, and no clear signs of what it was meant to do. What could this have been used for? This is a boatswain's call, a traditional naval whistle used aboard ships to relay commands and signals. It's been a key part of maritime communication for centuries, especially in the Royal Navy and other naval forces. The pitch and rhythm of the whistle indicate different orders, like waking the crew, calling them to meals, or summoning all hands to deck. Each distinct sound pattern carries a specific meaning, and experienced sailors could interpret them instantly over the noise of the sea and ship. It was found among a pile of old tools, and at first glance it just looks like a simple hook with a handle. The plastic grip is about 4 inches wide, and the metal hook extends 6.5 inches. But it's not just any hook. The end is flattened in a way that suggests it was made for something very specific. There's only one marking, TAIWAN, stamped into the handle. Any ideas what this thing could be for? This is one from a pair of boot hooks, traditionally used to help pull on tall, snug-fitting boots, especially riding boots worn for equestrian activities. The curved metal end hooks into the loops sewn inside the top of the boot shafts. With one hook in each hand, you'd pull upward while your foot slides in, giving the leverage needed to get past the tight ankle and calf sections. It was found hanging above a wood stove in a house in Switzerland, and nobody, including the owner, could figure out what it was for. It's a long-handled metal tool, maybe 2 feet in length, with a curious spiral at the end. The spiral stands about 2 inches tall and spans about 3 inches across. Definitely built to withstand heat, and clearly meant to interact with the stove or fire in some way. What do you think this was used for? This is the implement used for making Rosenkuchen, a spiral-shaped, crispy pastry. The version made by the Swiss Society in Cape Town is deep-fried and delicate, quite different from the German version of Rosenkuchen, which is more like a baked, bready roll. The tool is typically heated in oil, dipped into batter without submerging fully, then returned to the hot oil where the batter fries and separates from the mold, forming that signature rosette shape. It's part of a long tradition of festive fried pastries across Europe. I think many people assume this is just an old-fashioned immersion heater. You heat the metal in the fire and then dip it into water, or maybe it's used for warming a drink in winter, but that's not the case at all. It was found in the kitchen with a wooden handle and a curved metal piece, maybe a blade, maybe not. It's about 7 inches long in total. The metal part isn't a complete circle. It leaves a gap, almost like it's meant to scrape, press, or shape something rather than slice. Any ideas what it could have been used for? This is a handheld corn stripper, used to remove kernels from a cob of corn. You hold the cob steady and slide this tool down along it. The sharp, circular blade inside cuts the kernels cleanly away. It's especially useful if you're processing a lot of corn for canning, freezing, or making creamed corn. It was found in a museum in Latvia, part of a display with no label, just a riddle from the museum keeper. A metal hollow cup, but instead of a normal handle on the outside, this one curves inward, right into the cup itself. At the very tip of that inward handle, a tiny hole. It's all metal, solidly made, and definitely not a lamp, even though it sort of gives off that vibe. Any ideas what this could have been used for? This is some kind of spirit burner or alcohol vapor lamp. The double-walled construction suggests it's designed to hold a flammable liquid, something like kerosene, mineral spirits, or alcohol. The fuel would be poured into the lower chamber through a capped side opening, and as it heats, vapors would rise between the walls, channel through the spout, and exit at the nozzle, where they could be ignited. It was found during a remodel of an old house, sitting alone in a root cellar. Made entirely of metal, it has a grooved bottom plate, a handle, and a set of adjustable prongs that seem designed to hold something securely in place. The whole contraption is about 10 to 12 inches long and stands 8 inches high. Some of the prongs have a serrated or bumpy texture while others are smooth, and none of the edges appear to have ever been sharpened. A ring piece locks the prongs in position. Stamped on the handle, Wichita Production Inc. 3550 SE BLVD, Wichita, Kansas. It looks like it was meant to grip or stabilize an object, maybe in a workshop, farm, or food prep setting, but no one seems to know exactly what for. What could this thing have been used for? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop your answer in the comments below the video.